Welcome to Just the Who of Us, hosted by Reah. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations around mental health, life journeys, holistic wellnesses, and the experiences that shape who we are. Take a breath, settle in, and join Reah and today's guests as we explore the stories that connect us.
Welcome back,
Yeah.
everyone, and thank you for being here. Today we have with us Dr. Fred Moss. Dr. Fred is really a man of many hats, but including a psychiatrist, a public speaker, and a coach, and an author, to name a few. Um, so we're really excited to have you with us. Thank you for being here today.
Yeah, it's great to be here. I'm looking forward to our conversation greatly.
Yeah, me too. So I want to spend today kind of getting to know you a little bit. As I said, you wear multiple different hats, and you are well versed in more than a few areas. I want to kind of focus on the mental health aspect of your career. Really all this kind of ties in together. With a mental health focus, with your writing and your coaching. But I want to kind of spend a little time talking about where it all started.
Sure. Well, it actually started on the day that I was born, and I really mean that. I was born to a family that had two brothers, my two brothers, and then my two parents. And my brothers were 10 and 14 years old when I was born. And so there was a fair amount of chaos, disarray, and conflict in the home. And I think my parents and my brothers were interested in me bringing a new level of joy and unity into a family that was in a fair amount of disarray.
Mhm.
And so when I arrived, I was like a bundle of joy. I was called on to bring some sort of love and peace and steadiness to this family. And that's what I did early on. My brothers still tell me that I did a good job back then. I didn't do a good job my whole life, but I did a good job back then. And, really was able to bring a thread of joy and peace to that family. And the way I did it was by communicating. Basically, I realized that if I laughed, then people got happy, or if I was sad, then people took care of me, or if I was angry and pouting, then people wondered what was going on. And so I learned early on that communication was a really big deal. And I wanted to learn how to be a communicator. So I remember, vividly sitting in my living room and watching my parents and my brothers talk to each other and wishing that someday, as a big kid, as a big boy, I would also learn how to communicate with them. And so I figured that would happen in school, but it didn't happen in school. It was a disappointment in school because I was told to sit down, be quiet, and do what the teacher says. And I did that throughout elementary school, then figuring that it must be in the higher levels, junior high or high school. And of course, it got worse in junior high and even worse in high school. Sit down, be quiet, do what we say. And, your opinions and your questions are essentially not even welcome. I went to college. It was like one last try to learn how to communicate. I was learning how to communicate, but I was doing it in the streets. I was doing it outside of school. School was not the place where my learning was coming. I like to hitchhike. I was all over the Detroit area hitchhiking. And, I just put out my thumb and go wherever the cars wanted to take me. It was like, they were different days, but that's exactly what I would do. It was after school, like after junior high. I would step right on the corner of 11 Mile and Evergreen, or I think it was 11 Mile and Lasser. Maybe it was 11 Mile and Evergreen. I would step right there and put my thumb out and just see what my adventure for the day would be. And I just would go to places that, maybe I had never been to before, or maybe I was even warned not to go. And the idea was that I could learn how to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I went to college because that was the only thing left to do after high school. And I went to Ann Arbor, University of Michigan. So hoping that I would, maybe learn how to communicate. And again, I did in Ann Arbor, but not at the University of Michigan. And eventually decided that I couldn't be an engineer. That's how I got into the University of Michigan. And there was no communication there. And so I dropped out and took a Greyhound bus across the country to Berkeley, California. to learn what my life was about. And I had a great summer, but it was not sustainable. And there was this new industry that my family thought I could do good in. So they directed me back to Michigan to go to look at this new industry. It was called computers. You may have heard of it. And, there was one computer in all of Michigan. It was at the University of Michigan. So back to Michigan I went, and I enrolled in the computer program, only to last for, I think, less than a full year. The same idea happened where I didn't want to do punch cards and batch jobs the rest of my life. Yeah. So I dropped out a second time, and I swore I would never go back to school again. And then the next thing that happened was my mom told me that I had to get a job. So she got me an application as a child care worker at a state mental health facility for adolescent boys. And so I took that job. I thought I would last for only 3 weeks because that's how long orientation was, and I could get 3 paychecks and then get in my car that I just bought that I didn't have yet and just drive around the country and figure out what my life was about. And the 4th week, my peer, Paul, convinced me to come up to the units, and I went up to Meadowview 5, and there I realized, I was so scared that Monday, and I realized that if I communicated here, I could make a difference. Like if I just connected with these kids, if these people who are, just about 5 years younger than me and treated them as humans and was curious about them, just like the people I had met in my life up until that point, then I could actually make a difference with this group because they had never really been communicated with in many cases. Mm-hmm. So it was a matter of connecting with them, of conversations and of creativity, and really began to appreciate that job over the next several years. And also appreciated that, with that job, the thing that I didn't like was the direction that psychiatry was going. So it seemed to me that psychiatry was not a respectful field, and that it was taking people down dark and nasty roads, and there was a lot of restrictions and constrictions. There was a lot of problems in the field, and I didn't like that direction that it was going. And Prozac hadn't even yet been invented. It was Prozac changed the whole world of psychiatry. Yeah. Most people don't realize that, but it did. It changed everything. It made psychiatry go into biological psychiatry, or this whole idea that if you're uncomfortable, you have a chemical imbalance. All of these things that are never really proven and don't really even make any sense were brought forward in 1987 with the advent of Prozac. So I'll move forward a little bit. Basically, I went back to school so that I could be a hero, so that I could bring communication back into this field that was going into the dumps and was an important field.
Right.
So back to school I went. I finished my degree in Detroit, and then got accepted in downtown Chicago at a great medical school at Northwestern University. And I learned so much in downtown Chicago, not so much about Northwestern University, but still I became a doctor. And then I took a residency in psychiatry, and then I took a fellowship in child and adolescent psychiatry, and I was off and running. But by the time as I was released, they wanted me to do regular psychiatric work, which was already shifting to diagnosing and medicating. And it wasn't something that I was interested in doing. But I kept doing it because, sunken costs, and that's what they wanted. And I needed a job. And, it seemed like there was some prestige there. And every time, that somehow I could make a difference by doing what they asked me to do. But usually the difference I made was in the wrong direction if I did what they asked me to do. So I spent the next 36 years or so, trying to figure out how I could be aligned with myself and still make a difference in the world of human connection, which is what psychiatry really should be, or really kind of is. And then over the last 10 or 15 years, I have made some real inroads since about 2006. Creating a new brand, traveling around the world and being a psychiatrist in multiple different countries, and then traveling all over the country as a locum tenens, a traveling doctor filling the needs in different places in different areas. I've had an opportunity to have an amazing career in psychiatry, pretty much having a leadership position in all the subspecialties where psychiatry makes any kind of impact. And, I've created Welcome to Humanity. And Welcome to Humanity is something that's more aligned with me, more aligned with communication at the center of all healing. And then I created the True Voice technology, And then I created the Creative Eight, ways to use creativity to relieve stress and strain, and do so forever. And then began to really look at what is the impact that psychiatry is making on the world. And this diagnosing and medicating don't seem to be the highest level impact. It seems that we could do a lot better than that. Some people swear by that, and that's great. If you wouldn't want to change from your present your present mental health treatment, whatever your diagnosis is or whatever your treatment plan is, or your therapist or your medicines, then more power to you, really. This is not here to change your mind on that. That's completely okay.
Right.
I'm just saying that there are multiple different ways to go at ongoing discomfort in the world. And as Krishnamurti said, it's no sign of mental health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And we have a profoundly sick society. I don't think anybody would argue that.
Right.
It's hard to stay steady, and it doesn't make you sick if you're having, it's like, blaming you for getting sick on a Ferris wheel or an amusement park ride, because this is what this is. It's very uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable to be a human these days, and it's been uncomfortable most of the time. And with that discomfort, we have Welcome to Humanity. Can we embrace the discomfort as part of the package, as part of the smorgasbord of what it means to be living in the human condition? And, I'm writing a book now, my third book, called Welcome to Humanity. I'm making great strides in it. And it's an opus about my life, about everything you just asked. And all the details I've just told you will be in the book, as well as how I got to be the founder and creator of Welcome to Humanity and the Moss Method, and the upcoming retreat that we're having, which is the Welcome to Humanity Moss Method Retreat in September, where we're teaching other people how they too can become undoctors, if you will. They too can become clinicians that can help people without the need of medicating or diagnosing somebody. And we can teach that to anyone, no matter what specialty you had coming in. It doesn't require a medical license, although we do offer a certification. It doesn't require a medical license to communicate with somebody. It just doesn't. As a matter of fact, having a medical license might be a point against you, because you took about 8 years off of being in the human race in order to go out there and get your medical school degree and your residency. And during that time, I just need to promise you and the physicians out there, as well as the public, they didn't learn how to be better humans in those 8 years. I'm just saying.
Yeah, there's a few things I want to kind of piggyback off of, but one thing that you mentioned, and this stands out so much to me because for a couple of reasons, and I'll go into that, but the human experience, welcome back to humanity, getting back to humanity. It's so. I went into psychology. I intentionally got a master's in psychology because I wanted to be a therapist. I wanted to open my own practice after a while and whatnot. And then I obtained that degree and everything. Oh, you have to get state certified. You have to do this and whatnot. And I'm like, but I have so much knowledge and not only so much life experience that I want to help people, but everything requires this extra step, this extra step.
Yeah.
And I planned to go for my PhD, but I didn't. I went for a second master's in holistic mental health and wellness, with an emphasis on family dynamics. And I took those and I scratched the therapy practice plan, and I wanted to focus more on coaching, mentoring, because while having a state license would be great, I just felt like I already have so much to offer, and it doesn't take a long time, but there is a few more years that I have to put into it, to obtain this additional thing. And it just kind of felt like it was just kind of like another roadblock for all of the knowledge and life experience I already have. But one thing that I have noticed in the mental health field over the years is, like you said, it became very medication intentional, you know, and I have struggled with medication my whole life. I was diagnosed ADHD as a kid, and I struggled a lot in school, even as an adult. I struggled with medication. I took medicine as a kid, but one day I was like, I don't want to take this. I don't like the way it makes me feel. And my mom let me stop taking it. Now, we didn't also take other steps, therapy and things that we should have at the time. Um, but it's just the medication portion I've struggled with because I feel like there has to be other things that I can do. And of course, as an adult, I learn, certain things that I can modify and put into place that help me with focus, forgetfulness, which I'm still forgetful, but I've also had a concussion and other things, happen in life. But getting back to the humanity of mental health, of the individual person, and kind of shattering this expectation that this works for everyone because this baseline doesn't work for everyone. We have to focus on the individual person, because that's what's going to work and not this baseline. Okay, everyone should take medicine. Everyone should just do therapy, because sometimes it's a combination. Sometimes it's one or the other. Sometimes one isn't helpful. It's a mental health requires a very individual approach and not a baseline.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate your experience in life and, the ride through all the trials and tribulations of becoming an official psychologist. I can totally relate. And, I'd just like to add that I think what's really important here is to get that there might be nothing wrong with you in the first place, even from the very beginning. Like
Yeah.
even when they told you had something called ADHD, maybe you never had anything.
Yeah, I have considered that because I'm also currently doing research on the correlation between childhood trauma and ADHD diagnosis, because there is a direct correlation there. But there's not.
There's a direct correlation between being human and ADHD.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's okay. It's okay if you can't keep your attention going in this world. It's really okay.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
It doesn't represent, the two D's in ADHD are deficiency and disorder. And I don't think it represents either of those.
Yeah, I'm not fond of the acronym. I'm not fond of, and I have children who were diagnosed. I have 5 children. 3 were diagnosed, 2 were not. And I have well, he's not so small anymore, unfortunately, but I have a younger child who was diagnosed, and I resisted medication for years. And then I started incorporating it when there were some really intense things that happened, and we've started incorporating. But I am in the process of working through other avenues, um, other than medication, because, like I said, my whole life I've just been like, there has to be something better. And I know that medication helps with certain things, but ADHD is just
I don't know that.
really.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of medications that were given that we could change the symptoms just through lifestyle change, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, look, the human condition, it's difficult to be a human, and the medications actually are designed for the bottom line more than anything else. Now, nothing against pharmacology, actually, all businesses are designed for the bottom line.
Absolutely.
And so if medications made you better, then they would lose customers.
Yes, very much so.
So they don't lose customers. And in fact, it's a growing base, something like 30% of adults at this point, and I think the number is actually a little low, are taking some form of psychiatric medicines. And, the medicines are designed in frequently to perpetuate the symptoms they're marketed to treat. They actually create the symptoms. That you're like, if you didn't have ADHD and I gave you a stimulant, then you would start getting ADHD.
Yeah,
If
I
if
believe
you
that.
didn't
Yeah.
have depression and I gave you an antidepressant, you would definitely get depressed. If you didn't have anxiety and I gave you a benzo, then you would definitely start having major anxiety attacks. So the
Yeah.
medicines rightfully cause the symptoms they're marketed to treat. Now, it's not the medicine's fault.
Right. It's doing what it's supposed to do.
It's doing what it says it's not doing what it's marketed to do, but it's doing what it does. And what is interesting is that we keep going back to doctors thinking there's something wrong with us or our loved ones,
Right,
when
right.
maybe there's nothing wrong with your kids at all, even if very intense things happen.
Yeah.
Maybe there was not,
Yeah.
even if they got electric, even if they got angry, even if they destroyed them things, even if they couldn't handle the teacher, even if they got in fights, whatever their problem was, or they couldn't complete homework, or they failed second grade, or whatever, that still doesn't mean there's something wrong with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's
But that's the only reason we take people to a doctor, is when we think there's something wrong with them.
yeah. Yeah. Yes. And instead of preventatively, we less commonly go to a doctor preventatively than we do go to address a symptom.
For certain, yeah. Very few people go. Yeah, by the time you're going to a doctor, it's almost not preventative by definition, because
Yeah.
now you made a doctor's you've made a doctor's appointment, and you think, or people think, the doctor is the expert.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how that all happened over time. That we think that a doctor who stayed in school for 4 years and then went and did some kind of internship or residency is actually more expert about humanity than those who stayed out in humanity during those times.
Yeah. But it's the societal expectation became, well, if you have this degree, then you know what you're talking about.
Well, that is what that's to some degree that's thought to be true. Certainly that's thought to be true in medicine, but
Yeah. Yeah.
it's not rightfully supported by the truth. It's not
Yeah.
rightfully supported. In other words, if you've gone to a psychiatrist recently, you could see that they probably weren't based on communication and connection and understanding the human condition. Probably not. Probably a very short visit where they asked you if you had any side effects, if they asked you if you had any, if you were any sleep or appetite changes or anger outbursts or something like that. And once you said no to all those things, then they just wrote you another prescription and sent you on your way. That's not
Yeah.
genius. That's not genius there.
Yeah.
There's no genius doing that. That person could be working at Kentucky Fried Chicken and do the same thing. It's no
Yeah.
special skill to be able to write some new medicine on a 5 by 3 little piece of paper. It's no extra skill, I promise.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to spend a little time on that note talking about the Undoctor reset.
Yeah.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, the Undoctor Reset is now changed its name a little bit. I think it's going to be that's where the retreat is. But the Undoctor Reset is also a course and a community. So my school community is school.com/welcome to humanity. And that's where the Undoctor Reset actually starts. There's a few hundred people that are in there in that foundational room. And what we're looking for is people to express and share their open, honest experience inside of the human condition. What is really going on? Not so much what's going on with their psychiatric problems, which are questionable to say the very least. The problems themselves are not questionable. It's hard to be human. The problems themselves are real. It just means that if you have those problems, it does not mean there's something wrong with you. It literally, this isn't just the semantics. Having problems living in a world where it is extremely challenging to live in that world doesn't make you the problem. We don't blame a log for burning in the fire, for instance.
Yeah.
Because that's what logs do. When you put a log in the fire, it burns.
Right.
And it's who we are. We are humans who are burning in a fire. We don't need to be blaming the humans for catching little scorch marks.
Right.
As it turns out, it's very it's difficult. It's challenging. There's a lot of obstacles and hurdles in being a human being. And we can embrace all that without declaring that there's something wrong with an individual. Now, once we declare that there's something wrong, that's when we go and get help to get it fixed. That's what we think we're doing. But medicines and psychiatry are not built to fix you. They're not even designed to fix you. They don't even pretend to fix you. They don't even advertise that they're going to fix you.
Right. Yeah.
All they really tell you is you have a condition and you're going to have it for the rest of your life. And in the meantime, you're going to have to keep coming back to see me and then keep taking medicines or keep doing your treatment plan. And if you don't, then it's on you for breaking the agreement.
Yeah.
It's kind of a nonsensical field that is self-referential. And because it's self-referential, people continue to think that they're sick. They could say, well, I have ADHD, or I have PTSD, or I have spectrum disorder, or I have major depression, or I have bipolar disorder, or I have, social phobia or something like this. And then they can say stuff like, that wasn't me, that was my condition. When I make a mistake and I hurt somebody, or I do something wrong, or I clumsily manage something, maybe I get mad at somebody, or maybe I actually hurt somebody with my words, or hurt myself with my own thoughts.
Yeah.
Then I assume that there's something wrong with me. And when, instead of assuming that there's something wrong with me, what if I was to get that that's actually just part of what it means to be human?
Yes. Yes. So much so.
Yeah, it's okay. Like, it's completely okay to have miserable moments or even miserable days. It's like, sorry, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with you. And you definitely don't have a chemical imbalance, but you will have one if you start taking medicine. Because that's what the medicines do. Medicines certainly cause chemical imbalances.
Wow.
Of course they do. That's what they're designed to do. That's why you take them.
Right.
You want them to unbalance your present chemicals.
Yeah, but it's so true because the way our system is set up is to profit, right? That's most things is set up for profit. And how do you continue profit? By keeping the problem so that someone needs to come back for help.
Yeah, if you can create a product that creates the symptoms for the person who bought the product to need additional product, then you have created a pretty good business model.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's what's going on in that industry. A few different industries, but that one is probably the most pronounced. There's never been an industry in the history of the world that has a greater profit margin than pharmacology.
Right. Right. I want to shift gears a little bit to coaching. Because one thing that coaching is designed for is to not have you come back forever.
Well, most coaches, that's true.
Yeah, that well, it should be anyway. If you're doing your job right, then that should be the goal, to not have the person have to come back forever.
That's right.
I want to, because for me personally, coaching instead of, continuing education and doing other things is more about, because I want to help people. I want to help people on the grand scheme, and I want to do it. I put the same legal practices in as if I was a practicing therapist, because not only, that's just what I was taught, but I agree with what I was taught. Confidentiality and things is important. And so, but with coaching, you do have a little more leniency, and I feel like you can be more of a human. You can create more of a connection with your client than traditional therapy. It is kind of a transactional relationship to an extent. And so for me, coaching was just partially was a way to be able to feel like I could connect with people better. Why did you get into coaching itself as a separate career path?
I think that coaching allows me to actually be with someone as they are, and they don't have to come and see me in order to get a diagnosis or get a medication. They can come to see me knowing that they're going to get somebody who's eye to eye with them. I don't have experts that I'm giving to my coaching clients. I don't have expert skills or expert things. What I have is, I too am a human being, and I've lived a full life, and I've had multiple beautiful experiences. And I can assist when we get two people going in the same direction. I can assist people in making strides in the areas of life that matter to them from a coaching perspective. It's a little bit different than from a psychiatric perspective. We're really, once I get into people's lives and once we really start talking about what's going on, what are the perceptions, what are the concerns, what are the worries, regrets, resentments, what are the obstacles and hurdles, and what are the wishes, wants, desires, and intentions, and we start looking at all those things. I can do that from a coaching standpoint. Because I'm not going to diagnose anybody and I'm not going to medicate anybody. And frankly, I think that's the only difference between being a doctor and being a coach, is that I don't use my license to diagnose and medicate. Instead, I use my life to actually connect and relate and understand and communicate and with other people, and then assist them in taking the strides that they need to get the life that they desire.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I think those are all the questions that I have. Is there anything else that you would like to cover or ask or discuss or anything?
No, I think this is good. I think that again, the whole idea is that we have to set in place the notion or the realization that maybe, just maybe, there was nothing wrong with us in the first place, and that would be, the kind of help that we've sought maybe isn't the best choice. It's a choice. And it does what it does. It blocks our ability to actually feel experiences altogether. There's no there's no chemical association. For instance, people think that serotonin is the cause for, serotonin deficiency is a cause for depression. Not at all. Or they think that stimulants actually cure ADHD or, adjust ADHD. What they do is they block out so many things.
Yeah.
And then you can sit still, but you're kind of zombie and you feel a little bit more focused. But these medications are not the answer. But the real truth is, you wouldn't take medicine if you didn't think there was something wrong with you. And if we can get on that step in getting that there was nothing wrong with you in the first place, you just keep on trucking, then we can create a world where getting diagnosed as being deficient or different is not a requirement in order to move forward.
Yeah. Yes. I love that too. It's so accurate.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome. Well, thank you so much for being here. This was a wonderful conversation. I really value it, and I really think that is important for not only my audience, but a lot of people to hear. Hopefully society is moving more toward the holistic picture and a little away from a medicinal focus, because it's been the focus for so long. Medication, medicate your symptoms, medicate your diet, your issues has been a focus for so long. And it gives me hope that holistic wellness is, kind of slowly creeping along as a focus, a focal point. But I hope that, with work like what you do, it can continue to shift that momentum and
Thank you. Yeah, me
you're
too. I
welcome.
hope so too. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for being here and see you soon.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Just the Who of Us. We hope today's conversation offered reflection, comfort, or a moment of clarity. If this episode resonated with you, feel free to share it with someone who may need it. Until next time, take care of yourself and remember, you're not alone in the journey.